All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Under the Loop. And today we have a very special episode for you as we are doing a bust down showdown. And what that means is we have 3 watches, all factory set gem watches. We're gonna go after your opinion on who won this showdown. Without further ado, let's get started. And before we get started, today's wrist check, I'm wearing a 1675 Super Mint condition Mark V dial, all original. And as you can see, it just looks so charming with the very light patina going on with the dial, the nicely faded bezel, very thick case, and a very strong bracelet. It is available for sale, so if this is something you're interested in, feel free to reach out and we'll help you out with that. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So the very first watch we have is a 16755 CH&R, and it's a very simple yet very elegant looking watch. And one thing I love about this watch is it's very subtle, as there's 3 versions of this watch. This is what I'd consider version 1, and that's just basically the bezel and the lugs being finished out with precious gems and diamonds. And obviously the one we were looking at today is brand new. And something interesting you can tell your friends when you're looking at this watch is if you tell anybody, hey, did you know Rolex made a Pepsi in rose gold? Most people would call you crazy. They wouldn't think of they would not think of this watch. And you could prove them wrong by showing them the Saru, which has that very beautiful sapphire diamonds, rubies and diamonds at the first half and second half of the watch. You'll see it is in the Pepsi configuration. So yeah, there is technically a Pepsi rose gold GMT out there. It's just configured as such. These are overall very rare watches. They're not very easy to come by, especially direct from Rolex. It's very hard to have an allocation for something like this. It's pretty much, if you want this watch without the games, I'd always suggest going gray market, where you can kind of understand what market price you're going to enter it and what you can exit it at. At the peak of the market, this watch was really trading around almost 200,000 for the basic model, up to 300 for the crazy all-out full-on bust-down pave 126755. But this one right here is the version 1. The next version up from this watch would have the diamond encrusted dial, which is the whole dial is now covered in diamonds. And then the version 3 would have that dial plus the center bracelet covered in diamonds as well. So you really can get pretty wild with this watch. But for me personally, I think this is the most subtle flex you could possibly get out of this watch, as it kind of still looks like a root beer from a distance, but when you get up and close and personal with this watch, you really see you have something special, unique, and something that'll separate the crowd with this watch. But it's absolutely amazing. I wouldn't go further than this watch personally. All right, so the next watch up in the showdown is a very crazy looking Audemars Piguet, and that is the 25978 BC full bust down, all factory original, Royal Oak offshore. And this thing really has a presence. So this would probably be the loudest watch that we have. And this one definitely says, like, I want to be flashy as possible. I need to be noticed. 99% of these you'll see in the wild, they're typically custom. They're typically custom made in New York City and Miami and, you know, obviously LA. They really get down on busting these down. But this one right here is actually bust down to none other than Audemars Piguet themselves. So one thing we need to talk about is the difference between how Audemars Piguet sets their diamonds and how they would set this watch up in New York or LA or Miami or something like that. But this is definitely gonna have a totally different vibe overall. One, diamonds. The diamonds at Audemars Piguet are going to be 100% guaranteed the best stones you can possibly get onto this watch. They're gonna be true VVS, they're gonna be exactly the same size, consistent throughout the entire watch, and they're going to be set properly 1000%. Whereas in New York, they may cut corners on quality, such as using SI2, SI1 diamonds. They may not set them equally, you know. And another thing to notate, and I'll try to get some footage of this if I can, is whenever the diamonds are set one by one, by hand, mind you, the tables of the diamond, which is the very top, it looks like a stop sign. It's an octagon shaped feature on the top of the diamond. That's pretty much a very, very common trait with diamonds. So what you're looking for there is on a factory, any factory set, Rolex, AP, Patek, they do the same thing. They keep the trait the same. Basically, they're gonna line up those tables perfectly, so it'll appear as if you have perfectly aligned stop signs, you know, along the way. So if that's the easiest way to describe it, they're not gonna be crooked next to each other. Like one's not just gonna be randomly stuck there. And that's what you tend to see a lot with aftermarket diamond setups, is like the tables don't line up. So it's really obvious. And then another thing to look for is the prong setting. Right? Prongs on a watch like this are gonna be perfected. They're gonna have almost zero flaws with each setting. So they really take their time and go over everything perfect when they set these. I mean, it is truly a piece of jewelry at this point that tells time. And this watch particularly has mother of pearl chronos. And in fact, if you look closely at the dial, you'll notice that the dial doesn't even say Audemars Piguet on it. The crystal says Audemars Piguet on it. So it's printed on the crystal so that they don't interrupt the dial with any kind of plate to take away from the whole essence of the watch. So a lot of New York custom APs like this will just have a plate on the dial that says Audemars Piguet, but Audemars Piguet went further and actually went ahead and put it on the crystal, which is a nice touch because it kind of gives it a 3D effect, which is really cool looking. So current market right now on this watch is trading about 200,000 if you can find one. They're obviously very rare, as you don't really see a full bust down factory set AP like this often. So, and that's going to be it for this watch. Let me know in the comments below if this is more your style when it comes to bust down watches. If bust down watches aren't your thing, I totally understand. It's not a lot of people's thing. But if you had to have fun with the watch and go all out, would you pick this watch? And for the next watch we have, this is arguably our biggest piece in-house at the moment, and it's probably one of the coolest watches I have seen in a long time as far as diamond set stuff goes. This is going to obviously take the cake, so let's get right into it. It is the 7968/300R, which is the Patek Philippe Aquanaut Rainbow with the mother of pearl with the gradient gem set dial, which is incredibly crazy looking watch. Personally, I think this is a watch fit for a woman to really rock and roll with a bigger watch. Not to mention this huge price point of this watch is also something to not take lightly. You know, something like this is extremely rare. They don't really put a lot of these out there. Arguably probably way more rare than a Rainbow Daytona, but obviously doesn't really have the same presence as a Rainbow Daytona, as you only have it on a strap and not a bracelet. But if you haven't seen the new Rainbow Patek Philippe that they just dropped, it's absolutely wild. It is just full on balls to the wall, a crazy piece to even see pictures of this thing, videos of this thing. It's just wild. I can't imagine what it's like to see one in person. That is fully encrusted rainbow all the way around. It has a rainbow bracelet. This is kind of the baby version of it. You know, I can't imagine. I think that watch is like $2.5 million, and this one is trading around $400 to $450 on the open market. A lot of times you'll see them on Chrono24 asking $400, $420, $450. But 9 out of 10 times they don't actually have that watch because they're using stock photos, and they're also all over the world. You don't really see them in the United States too often. So I don't really know how many are in the open market right now, but I would guess less than 4. And with Rainbow Daytonas and other rainbow set watches, I would say abundance of supply out there compared to this watch. Again, this is a really fantastic watch to see in person. It's got some good weight. It's a chrono. It's big. It's not small, but again, if a guy wears it, it's gonna look really amazing. But if a woman wears this watch, I think it'll even look even crazier, because I know how you ladies like to accessorize, and this is the ultimate accessory. And then one thing I noticed about this watch is they also set this watch with a few baguettes along the outer edge of the clasp. I'm not exactly sure why they did it the way they did it. To be honest, I'm not a fan. They could have gone all the way around or something else, but they just kind of threw 2 lines up there and that's it. Kind of called it a day. I really feel like that fell short of what they could have done. I think a full 360 baguette setting would have been amazing looking, but hey, there are reasons for doing it. We can't argue with Patek. They obviously know what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, absolutely crazy piece, and I think this one really takes the cake as far as gem set watches that we have on hand. If I had to pick out of all 3 of these watches that I showed you today, I would personally wear the Saru, as I think that watch has the perfect amount of gold compared to the rest of the settings that it has going on. So the diamond set lugs and the gem set bezel, to me, it's just a perfect touch. It doesn't really need more, it doesn't need less. And to me, that's the perfect watch. Obviously, the AP is crazy and very wild, to say the least. And for me, the Patek is a huge hitter, a very heavy hitter of a watch to rock around. But to me, I just find it a little too flamboyant for my liking, because I really think the mother of pearl took it to that level. I think without that mother of pearl dial, if they would have used a black dial or maybe something else, it would have been a home run. That's kind of what took it away from me, is the mother of pearl. Not a big fan of that. So if you have any other watches that you'd like me to review, drop them down below and I'll do my best to get to them. And in the meantime, thank you guys for watching and staying tuned. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for me. And we'll see you next time.